Jamie Geller, my friend, welcome back to Jewish Money Matters. It's so good to see you.
It's been so long. It's been too long, Yael.
It's been too long, but I'll tell you, you have been on my mind recently a lot. And not because
Really?
we were, yes, not because, not only because we were involved in Aish's participation in the World Zionist
Yes.
Congress and all that, which we'll talk about, but number one, what we just did before we went on the air that we said to Tehillim, this whole thing of having my Tehillim handy on my desk, that's one thing that I learned from you years ago. I think the first time you came on the show, which was
Oh my
probably
gosh.
2018. That's how long the first time you came.
Wow.
Yes,
Wait,
yes.
I'm
And
gonna
then
cry. Oh my gosh. That's so
no,
beautiful.
I
I'm
want to tell you
emotional. I'm
three
like,
things. Three things.
okay,
One, the Tehillim. And it's so
right.
interesting that just before we came on, you paused to say Tehillim. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the thing that I learned from Jamie in 2018. And I did the same. And then the other thing, well, of course, the tip about the Friday night meal, like clearing everything after the meal. You remember that?
By the way, that I remember that you were like, what? And wow. And when I do that, and we do that, of course, every Friday night, I think of you actually. Like it's
Hysterical.
surprising to me that it was so like eye-opening to you. So I,
It
I
was
think
such
of
a
you when
good
I do
tip.
it. Yeah.
Yes, so I think of you. And then the other thing that I don't know if you would remember because it was a little bit more of a subtle point, but you said in passing back then in that interview something to the effect of, I don't my life is so full right now between family and having moved to Israel and my business. I don't really have so much time for new friendships, Yael,
Yeah.
which was something that I remember I couldn't relate so well to at the time. And as I've grown older and my kids have grown older and I've become more
Yeah.
focused in my profession, not at the expense of my family. That's something, with
Right.
balancing all that out, which we'll talk about soon, hopefully. I always think about that because I really do have a lot of boundaries now in place. I don't really have time. I have very solid, good friendships. I don't really have the
Yes.
time to develop new ones for good reasons. And
Yes.
sometimes, right? Sometimes it's hard. It's almost like it's hard to say it and admit it, but I guess there's also a healthy aspect to that.
That's still very much my reality. And that's it's I'm not surprised that I mentioned it and spoke about it, although I don't recall that we spoke about that particular point, but that is very much my reality. But like you said, it's not for a bad reason, it's for good
Right.
reason. And it's where
Right.
I've decided to focus my energies now. And like you said, the advancement of our career has to be at the expense of something. And it's not going to be at my family and it's not going to be at my
Right.
mental health. And I do have friends. I have amazing friends who
Right.
have been with me since the beginning who I can call and cry to and scream, like not at them, but like scream
Yes.
with the world and everything, with them, and
Right.
they understand me and they don't judge me. So if as long as you have those healthy outlets, okay, there will be different times in your life when you're more social
Yeah.
or you're more open to growing and developing more new friendships. So yeah.
Yes, yes, I'm totally with you on that. So you've been on my mind, and this took us down memory lane, but more
Yeah.
recently, when you were last on the show, which was probably like 3 years ago, we made this big announcement. I remember it was hot off the press then that you were bringing on your vast experience in communication and media production to a new level by taking on the role of
Yes.
Chief Global Officer and Global Spokesman at Aish. Incredible move in your career. And I remember how we talked about how this role would allow you the space to continue to be entrepreneurial as you'd been up until now, and you
Yes.
felt very strongly that that you could do that. So I would love to know, now that you're a few years in it, tell us more about that transition and how you've been able to stay entrepreneurial and creative and innovative within this framework of an established organization, not one that you solely run per se.
Sure. So first of all, it's so funny, so intuitive, as your interviews and questions always are. And you saw that I came in very frazzled and very challenged. And I'll just be very honest and open. Like I am dealing with a particular issue now at work. It's a very large global organization, and it's really like a movement. I mean, it's celebrating 50 years. Aish is a global movement. As you know, we were just part of Aish together in the World Zionist Congress and running together. And it's been the greatest 5 years of my entire life. And I never believed that I would have come here, been here, and made an impact and or had the fulfillment, which is almost the most important
Wow.
thing that I've had in the
Right.
context of this long storied, unbelievable movement. I hate to just call it an institutional organization. But you're right, you're not the boss, and there are many departments and there's many need to work, many needs that you have to work well with colleagues and equals and or superiors and or figure out like structure in a way that makes sense both organizationally and otherwise. And it is fraught with challenges and it's many, many personalities, right? For many people, the most beautiful thing
Yes.
though is that we're all very mission driven. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
here wants to change the world, wants to change the world for the good, wants to bring Torah and Jewish wisdom into the world and teach every Jew Jewish wisdom. So everything comes from an unbelievable place. But when you're working with so many people and so many personalities on so many time zones in such a high, intense, high profile atmosphere, like with like high pressure on high profile projects, it is, it's definitely something to navigate as opposed to being like, oh, the boss of everything and your word is the ultimate and final word. So I definitely think that
Wow.
but it comes with a lot of growing that you get to do from that and a lot of refinement of your personal character and a lot of mistakes that you make and you're like, I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just did that. That's not me. That was me acting out of frustration. Now I need to work on myself. So I think it's been good and great, but that's one challenge. And the other side, though, you asked about innovation and entrepreneurship. Aish was born on. A movement doesn't happen and doesn't last for 50 years without that very innovative and entrepreneurial spirit at its core, at its DNA. And Aish hires like a million over the years of the last 50 years, people who could be CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, people who have come from running their own business or could decide to run their own business, but understand the power of 1 + 1 = more than two. So they're here, but
Mm-hmm.
they're very entrepreneurial in spirit, very strategic, very innovative. And now you get all these people in the room trying to change the world. So that's a fun experience, but definitely a growing one.
As you were elaborating on your first point, I was thinking, oh my goodness, it sounds like marriage. It sounds
Oh,
like how you grow in a marriage where
yes,
you have
yes,
these two individual people, and then when you have the children, and everybody has their own needs, perspectives, and talents, and you have to balance all, and
yes,
you're in it for the mission. You're together in this, but you have to balance
yes.
all of that out.
Yeah, completely. I think that's great. And they always say that like, I work with I don't want to say work husband because I feel like that is the wrong connotation, but you have like your work wife, your work husband, your work family. We call each other a family at Aish. And I definitely feel like there were massive partnerships with multiple people throughout, the organization, depending on the role that you play. And you're in a
Hmm.
partnership and you're working
Hmm.
together and you have a team and you have people that you're responsible for that report to you, quote unquote, but like you said, children, like they're your responsibility. You need to ensure their mental health, that they're getting the fulfillment and the passion that they need, that they're not being overworked, that they're being taken care of, that they're being productive, that they're producing their best results. If they're not, why not? So yeah, it's a very similar. I like that analogy very much.
Yes, yes, it's beautiful. And as you mentioned something to the effect of Aish's mission to bring Torah, true education to the
Yeah,
world, I don't think you're using those exact words, but it's something similar. It brought to mind the importance of Aisham's participation in this election, and
yeah,
the hallmark of age in what we call the fight and against anti-Semitism, but it's more than that. Like when we talk about fighting anti-Semitism, ultimately to me, and I'm wondering if I think that's this, we agree on this, and this is why I was part of this
we agree on
campaign,
a lot.
is yes, it's because really the way we do it is through education, through knowing, and we cannot know who we are as Yidden, as Jews, and our responsibility towards the world, towards humanity, if we don't know what we stand for, right? We have to
Completely.
be literate, we have to be educated. And this is where Aish's mission is so, so important.
If we don't know what we're living for, then we don't know what we're fighting for. And that is
Exactly.
so critical. And education and empowerment and Jewish pride and knowledge provides the confidence to then stand
Right.
on the front lines wherever your front lines are. And they're on, whether it's on the online war, whether it's literally on the front lines of the battlefield. I'm coming to you from Israel, and yesterday was one of the largest reserve call-ups, in our history. I had a number of meetings today with different organizations and companies that we do business with, and people were like, I'm sorry, so-and-so can't make it. He was just called to the front lines. I'm sorry, so-and-so can't make it. She was just called to the front lines. So students on college campus are on the front lines. There are multiple battlefronts that are happening right now, but it really starts and begins with Jewish empowerment, and which really stems from Jewish education.
Yeah, yeah. When we talk about Jewish pride, the pride can't stand on its own. It needs to be rooted in knowledge, in real knowledge of what it is to be a Jew.
Completely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
where the power and the pride comes from. That strong, literate, educated,
yeah.
knowledgeable Jews. And I just produced a documentary called Frontline Warriors, which is the
Hmm.
battle for anti-Semitism on college campus, and that was done as part of our Aish initiative. So we produced that together, Yael. So we'll just like you'll put that
Hmm.
out there. And Shabbos Kestenbaum, who became very famous for suing Harvard, and he did just finally settle, but he was the last man standing in that particular suit. And he said something so profound at the end of the documentary. And he said, money and resources, he believes, shouldn't go toward those that are painting swastikas on the sides of the synagogues while they need to be punished. He said the most important thing we can invest in, and it's not just financial resources, but is the literate, educated Jews from the youngest age possible. That is what
100%.
ensures the continuity of the Jewish future. And the
100%.
anti-Semitism, fighting it, it's always going to be there. We know that that's part of the role that we play and what we're going to face
Yeah.
until time eternal, until, God willing, the final redemption and the third holy temple will be
Um,
built behind me. But our job is to, in the face of that, stand tall and stand proud and be literate and be educated and be the best Jews that we can be. That is the answer to anti-Semitism.
100%, 100%. And he said money, not just money, but I do want to hone in on the money piece because I just had this very powerful. I was coming from a JLI leadership summit where I had the pleasure of interviewing a number of philanthropists on the topic of education, and then I had Jack Miller on the show here, who's a businessman, philanthropist, and we really drilled on this point that there is money out there that unfortunately Jewish money that is still being channeled to causes that are, yes, they're very nice. You're going to save the whales. You're going to have art in museums. But if we could really understand the power of our dollars into educating our youth from the earliest age that no Jewish child should, God forbid, not get an education. How many parents out there decide they can't afford it? It would be nice, but we can't afford it. So my kids go to public school. And if we can, we'll send a Hebrew school. Well, guess what? We all know at this point, it's not effective. It's not enough for your
Yeah.
child just to go to a Hebrew school and be raised. I'm sorry, like we have to call it what it is, right? And if we could create bigger awareness for the people who do have the financial resources to pool those resources where they need to be, because I know their heart is also in it. They all want
Yeah.
this fight against anti-Semitism. But really, we need the dollars for our children to be educated to, by the time they're already in college, they know exactly what they stand for.
Yeah.
There's no swaying them.
Correct.
There's no, you
Correct.
know?
Yeah, you said 100 important things, and I want to try to touch on all of them.
Yes.
First and foremost, there is enough money out there to change the world. And when we learned that, why did everyone get so involved in the World Zionist Congress? I always said it's the most important election that you never heard of because there's over $5 billion on the line over the course of the
Let's say
next
it
five
again.
years.
5 billion people.
Billion, yes, $5 billion, $5 billion plus. It's 1.2 billion per year. So it's $5 billion plus that exists, and it's just sitting there waiting to be allocated to the most important issues facing the Jewish people. So that's why we wanted to have a seat at the table, and I'm using the collective we, of course, you, Yael, and all the other people that ran on the slate, so that we can direct it to the most important places. So I don't think there's a lack of financial resources, but it's just about directing them to the right place. You also spoke about, they want to do good, these philanthropists. It is in the Jewish DNA to want to give and to want to do good. You see that
Exactly.
amongst volunteerism all over the world, not specifically volunteering for Jewish causes, but Jews have the highest showing up in the greatest numbers to be volunteers around the world. It's in the DNA to want to give, to do, and to change in whatever way we can. So whether it's financial, whether it's with our time, whether it's with our expertise. So the will exists there on a soul level, on a DNA level. The resources exist there. And now it's about how do we allocate them to the right place. And it's so crazy because today my development team reached out to me and said, we want to prepare something for a new potential donor that we want to meet. I won't say his name. I don't even know if they told me his name, honestly, so it's fine. He said, usually he's multi-billionaire, and usually he just gives to animal causes. And like, I guess saving the whales is definitely potentially important to the ecology and to the environment, et cetera. But like, a Jewish person is out there with billions of dollars, with a desire to give, and has never been exposed to, okay, what are the most important ways that we can ensure Jewish education, continuity, and a future for the Jewish people? What is the most important thing we need to do? And that's why I said at Aish, we teach Jewish wisdom, because the Torah and Jewish wisdom is our inheritance. It is our birthright. It is the thing that will enhance our life and allow us to have a more impactful, meaningful, relevant, insightful, like meaningful life, as I said. And like, that is the future to combating everything that we just spoke about now. So it's
Yes.
so crazy. It's like the resource is there, the will is there. And now we just have to talk about where's the most important place we can put all that in order to ensure a stronger Jewish future. And the last thing you said, every Jewish child, the war's on my mind. But no man left behind, no Jew left behind. Every Jew has the right. Like I said, it's their inheritance and they don't even know it yet. Imagine $1 billion is waiting for you personally. And like, you don't even know it's sitting in an account just waiting. Like, it needs an address. You need to just go claim it. You just need to go claim it with your lottery ticket.
Yep.
And that lottery ticket is being a Jew.
Yes. Torah tziva lanu.
Mhm.
Yes, 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 yes. It's an inheritance, and we have to continue. I guess we have to continue talking about these issues. We have to
Yeah.
continue producing educational content. We have to continue writing, inspiring people, everything that you guys are doing and that you're so passionate about. Um, Jamie, I want to switch a little bit to the more personal side. I guess into your life as an entrepreneur. As you know, in this show, we kind of not just talk about the practicalities of money, but also the mindset that goes around it.
Yeah.
Um, as an entrepreneur, and somebody in your role now, which is still, as we said, has its
Mhm.
entrepreneurial qualities, any challenges with money mindset or habits or things that you've had to overcome? I always feel like when we're thrown in these bigger roles, definitely entrepreneurial roles, we kind of have to face our money story head on, you
Yeah.
know?
So I do think, because in my role, I am very involved with the development department. So for those that don't know, that's the fancy way of saying the fundraising department, people
Right.
bring in the dollars. So I am somewhat privy to the pressures and what it takes to actually, raise money to create and affect change in the world and fuel all the projects that we do at AISH. So I do think perhaps I may be a little bit more mindful than your regular person who might be sitting, within an organization or a company. But I do think also, you know, you speak about being an entrepreneur within a company and then the money aspect. So when I came to Aish 5 years ago, I was named the Chief Media and Marketing Officer. If you can
Mm.
imagine, at 45 years old, Aish never had a marketing department and they didn't have a media department. So it's
It's
like,
mind-boggling, right?
yeah, yeah. So I got this fancy title. I got a guy, from the yeshiva who was great with a camera, and we grew that department to over 30 people across,
Wow.
2 different time zones, like internationally, plus let's say 10 to 15 different regular agencies that we work with that are sort of in-house, out-of-house, extensions of our department. And that happened there. Now, about a year, at the beginning of this year, so I changed to become the Chief Communications Officer, as you mentioned, the global spokesperson. The communications department became such a big division of the marketing department that it needed to be spun off and become its own thing. So now we have within their social media, we have in their production, we have in their straight, like traditional PR, we're building a studio. So we've had to start again, begin with the budget, start with a small budget, because as I did when I became the chief media marketing officer, before we, blew up to a few $1 million, and just of that division alone, Aish has a $25 million operating budget, of course. And then, and all these employees. So it's this sort of starting like almost a business within
Yeah.
a business organization, and starting with a small budget, which may be a few $100,000, and then growing that to a few million, starting with one person, or in this case, now we came over to communications with 3 people. Now we're in the process of hiring a team of 10 and building a studio and financing that. So and as someone who oversees the departments, you have to oversee the budget. So you do, again, have to be very smart with the money. And probably 5 times over the last 5 months, I have refigured, reallocated the budget, deciding, no, it's not this what I need. This is what I need. No, it's not out-of-house agencies
Wow.
that I need. I need more in-house people that we can get a little bit more ROI and bang for our buck in terms of someone who's fully invested and fully focused. And it made changes. And the finance department is just beside me. If you would look at my budget sheet, it's like revised, revised February 25th, revised April 21st. It's like, which sheet are we looking at now? And all within the allotted budget, but a lot of rejuggling and rejiggering as the business develops. So yeah.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah. It's good that you're very lovable and very likable, because they'd be like, oh, Jamie.
Completely. Yeah, it's my saving grace. And then I just smile and, say it to
I did
Helen,
it.
and we
I
keep
did
going.
it again. I
Totally,
switched things
totally,
around.
totally, totally.
Wow. And do you ever do you have to be present at those fundraising meetings? Is it also part of your job?
Oh, yeah, of course. I love it. I mean, some of
Oh,
our partners have become like some of my closest friends, because as you know, I don't have so
yes.
much
It's a
time to have
partnership.
a lot of social friends. Yeah, and I've become just so invested and spent a lot of time with them. And it's just my greatest honor to call people who have the means, have the desire, and know what to do with it, who are sitting there changing the world, like to be sitting with them, sitting next to them, having dinner with them, having an opportunity to just learn from them. They're my mentors, they're my advisors, and they're my new friends, since I don't have so much time for
Yeah.
social friends.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, and you know what? It's a partnership. It's not a donor. I always like
Oh, it's a
it's a
partner.
partner. Yeah. It
Yeah.
really
And
it
by the
really is.
way, you should think of your investors too, even if you're in the for-profit sector. Like, your investors are your partners. They've invested in you.
100%.
They believe in you, and you are an extension. They have the resources, you have the expertise or the idea, insert whatever here. And that's an absolute partnership. If that's
Right.
not a partnership, then what is?
Exactly. And that's exactly what you had in your previous life, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, those
correct,
relationships. Exactly.
correct.
So it translates beautifully, because it really is the same mindset and the same relationship skills.
Mhm.
Now, any any but and this is again a little bit more personal. And I'm always curious about people. Any habits, not they don't have to be financial, but any habits that you practice regularly that you feel definitely have an impact on your financial life.
So personal or professional?
But personal.
Personal. That's a great question. You should have my husband on for this part. I wonder how he'll react to my personal. Um, Maybe give me an
And
example of, let's say,
it
what are
doesn't have to
yours?
be,
Give me like
yeah,
one
it
or
doesn't
two,
have
and then
to.
yeah,
I'll tell you
see what
what are
you're
mine,
thinking.
honestly. I'll tell you what are mine. Mine are davening in the morning, giving
Uh,
tzedakah every morning when I daven, learning Shara B'tachon consistently, being very strict about Meister. Those are things that I feel they're not necessarily financial habits, but I feel like those are the things that really have moved the needle for me. You know,
Yeah, I love, love, love what you said. And I thought you were searching for something a little bit more technical. And I love that we can move this conversation into the spiritual. So you
yeah,
know how
you know
I
how we
feel
are here.
about Salem. So when we went through a very challenging financial time, probably 15 years ago, and it was like lasted like for a number of years, 5 years at least. And we started taking on saying Parshas Haman every day. So that's a
Oh,
specific prayer that is for parnasa, sustenance, your livelihood, and your financial success. And that is something that we took on, and to say it every day. And I have to tell you, I wasn't praying I didn't grow up religious. So
Right.
making
Like me.
formal prayer part of my daily life is such an, as we say, avoda. It is such work. It is not
Yes.
natural to me. And so, so first taking on this Parsha Haman, so Tehillim, that's maybe why I connected to it, because I know some of them by heart. They're like shorter. You can say them sort of at any time. It doesn't have this formality and this like organization. You could pick the one you like and that you connect to and just go with it. And it doesn't have it's not time bound. So getting Parsha Haman on a daily basis was a hard thing, but that I've seen only, only tremendous, unexplicable, supernatural, beyond nature blessings since I
Wow.
started that. And then, as my husband and I, we both thought about what else we can do. So, one of the things that I did personally was try to pray on a daily basis. And I want to say
Mm.
that even now, I'm not 100%, but it's absolutely my intention. And something that I also tried to take on is try to pray before I pick up my phone, right? And before I start
Yes.
doing work, which is also not 100%, but these are some of the things that I try. And I find here and there on the days that I didn't get to pray before I left, even though it's what I want. So I didn't say Parsha Haman. I feel myself a little bit more jittery. I feel
Yeah.
myself a little shaky, and I feel myself not having the same success at work. And success at work is not just the financial success, but it's the day-to-day interactions that we spoke about, all the obstacles that you go through. And I see that blockage when I don't. Like I literally see the correlation. So those are
Wow.
some things. So but the Tehillim, that particular prayer, I'm praying on a daily basis and trying, and I'm saying it out loud now, to not pick up my phone or not do work. Because how will we see the blessing if we didn't have a meeting with the boss first? Like,
Wow. Wow. So, so powerful. I'm with you. Hold on. I'm just turning this off
sure.
for my husband. I'm totally with you. And, I appreciate the honesty because it's also been my journey. I remember, Jamie, years ago when I first moved to Houston, an older woman said older than me, said at a women's gathering that prayer to her is like breathing. And I remember being like, I was like a mother of little children. Again, I'm about tshuva. Prayer was not, the Hebrew's still difficult for me. Like it wasn't something that I really, and I remember looking and hearing at this and like not relating, but having this admiration, like I could maybe get
Beautiful.
there one day. I don't know how. And it always stayed with me. And as my kids grew older and I started increasing, adding more things and more things, and I have my own version of shachars. It's not like I say, what I mean? There's
Right.
things that I skip, but I definitely already have like my rhythm. And it's starting to become this thing, like you saying, like, if God forbid, if I don't manage to say it before my first meeting or whatever, then the day just doesn't feel
Yeah.
right. And then I'll try to squeeze in a mincha because I just know something's just off
Yes.
kilter and in a certain way, right? And so I
Completely,
can now
completely.
relate to what she was saying. I'm not there yet. It's not
Yeah.
yet like breathing, like I need
Right.
it like, but I'm working towards that, and I could definitely feel a little bit of a taste of what that is. And I'm
Well,
hoping,
you have a sensitivity to it, and that's step one. You have a connection, that's step one. And
right.
just being able to somehow feel on a deep level that, as you said, off kilter or something's not,
Yeah.
the day's not flowing like that. That's step one. And we'll get there. I'm speaking in the we. You mentioned
Yeah.
one other thing though, Yael, about, being very what's the word you use? Not particular, but exacting
Meticulous. Yeah.
with
Meticulous or
your
exact.
micer.
Micer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have found not to be like meticulous or exacting, but right to err a little bit on the side
Add.
of extra. Right. And I'm
Yes.
saying, even if it
Yes.
is here, we'll call it a shekel here, we'll call it 25 cents there. I'm not suggesting, and I would never do that on your podcast, that someone should stretch financially in a way that's
Right.
not safe, and right, but a little something extra because I don't want
Yes.
God to be so to the penny with me. So,
Yes, yes, yes. And the reason, by the way, I'll explain why I use that term is because most often what I've found is that people don't even know there's such a concept. There's such a
right.
minimum baseline. So
Yes.
that's what I meant there. I actually, thank God, I'm in the Chumash camp, so I give 20%
Right.
calculating. But the truth is, we give more because,
Uh-huh.
like you said, there's things that
Yeah.
go that we just don't. They don't make it to the spreadsheet.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
the everyday coin and the other thing, many other things like
Yes.
that. But yes, I'm glad you brought that point, and I think we have to have that awareness that, and brings us back to what we were saying earlier. Giving is in our DNA. We are the
Uh-huh.
children of Avram Avinu. And as you said, it's not always money. It's also our time, our research, our energy, our talents, all of that. But there is a
Right.
sense of a financial responsibility that at a minimum,
Right.
a Jew has to give this notion of Meiser. And of course, being exacting, meaning like the sages say, don't
At
estimate, like
least.
make sure you're doing it correctly. And of
Right.
course, go above and beyond, but make
Yeah.
sure you're doing it correctly, which is where
Yeah, your
I know.
exacting is at the at least point, you know? Yeah,
Exactly. Because I know as about tshuva, I really didn't have that notion. It's very interesting. It's almost
totally.
like I missed the memo. Like, yes, we knew to give tzedakah and we gave
Yeah,
tzedakah. And
totally.
it wasn't until a financial challenge, probably like yours, I would say 15 years ago or more, that's one of the things that we realized. I'm like, oh, wait, like there's this notion. Have we even, taken this as seriously as it
Yes.
needs to be taken? So yeah, and I'm really glad that you mentioned Parsha Saman because typically we see it as something like, you always admire the Sephardim do it. Like my husband has a lot
Uh-huh.
of Sephardi friends, and like after davening, they're always open Parsha Saman. They always say it. Um, and it's just so cool that you mentioned it because there it is. It's right there. It's meant for
And it
this. It
says
brings
it in
bracha.
at the end of the prayer book, like in the Siddur, at the end of Tefillah, like for Parnasa. It's like it's not this like skula, this thing that like, oh, you
We
heard me,
made
but you're
up.
not sure. Yes, exactly. Totally,
Yeah.
totally,
It's not made
totally.
up. And the
Yeah.
man is there to teach us exactly that, where it's
Yes.
coming from. It's coming to remind
Correct.
us that it's coming from heaven. Even though you have
Yes.
your business and you have the things that
Yes.
seem like, but a Jew has to interact with all those things, knowing, no, 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 it's coming straight from the source, capital
Completely.
S. It's not the
Completely.
clients, it's not the investors, it's not the donors, it's
Completely.
right.
Not the partners.
And not the part exactly, not the partners. Exactly, exactly. I don't remember. By the way, this financial challenge you had 15 years ago, that's before moving to Israel. Is that right?
Yes, it started before moving to Israel and it actually overlapped even while being here. We moved here 13 years
Really?
ago. So yeah, I would say around 15 years ago it began and it lasted for at least 5 years. And it bridged that international move. So imagine all of the stress and the pressure of everything, young family,
Wow.
international move, financial pressure, like yeah.
Wow. First of all, I'm so happy we touched on that because number one, you see that it can be done. Like we can handle
Yes.
a lot of things. And
Yes.
number two, I was having a conversation with somebody recently about this. And sometimes when we're in it, those 3, 5, 8, maybe even 10 years, they feel like it's so intense. But if we would zoom out and we would look at, God willing, our 120 years of our life and our married lives, these challenges are really a blip. And what can come out of the challenge is such beauty and such unity as a couple and such strength of character and so many good things. And yes, when we're in it, it's tough, but really, when you zoom out, and I guess that's like looking at it from a godly perspective, it's just a blip.
So, it feels like a lifetime when you're in it. And for anyone who's
Right. It
going through
does.
any
It
personal challenge
does.
right now, the blip like only works when you're on the other side.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I think the challenge is to find the beauty. I don't know what that I think, I believe, and this is what my husband has said to me also, we have to find the beauty when we're in it, not
Yeah.
only after. It's very easy, hindsight, after to find the beauty, after the challenge has been relieved, hopefully, and for the good, or resolved, and hopefully for the good, or whatever Yeshua salvation that you're hoping for. And
Right.
again, this can be financial, it can be health, it could
Health.
be interpersonal relationships, raising children, relationships in every which way, like parent, child, spouse, etc. So, but we can't just find the beauty after it's been resolved because that's easy. And then
Yeah.
if you're hit with another challenge again, whether it's the same challenge, sometimes the same challenge comes back again in cycles, or
Right.
sometimes something different details here, but same challenge, same like concept that you need to overcome. We have to see that it's from God in that moment too. We have to find the beauty in that moment too. We have to make ourselves, as we say, a kli for bracha, a receptacle for the blessing in that moment as well, in order to change the reality, not just after celebrate, God and praise
Mm-hmm.
him, but understand that in that moment too, there's beauty. And I'm speaking from not from the cheap seats, from experience, and not just in financial. And under like that's been my struggle. I'm not saying that I've achieved that, but that's been the struggle that I've tried to identify and work on and realize even in the midst of the challenge.
Yes, yes, very similar. I could totally relate. And the challenge of, for me to stay present and saying, okay, like I'm choosing right now to live in the solution because I know the solution exists because
Yeah,
the one who sent the challenge already created the solution.
correct.
So I need to focus on the other side. The other side is
Yes,
there and live with the excitement and the joy and the euphoria that I would be living if I was on the other side. I'm not saying this is
yes,
easy. This takes a
yes,
lot of mental
yes.
training and
Oh, it
daily
is such a
workout.
mental exercise. It is probably one of the greatest workouts that you can give your mind, body, and soul. And
Yes.
even, not even thinking about the challenge itself. Like I love everything you said, solution, not to negate that, agreed. But what about not everything, even though sometimes it feels like everything is going wrong, not really everything. Like you may have the financial challenge, but your children are healthy, or somebody
Yes.
might be in a hospital, but they don't have the financial challenge. And just look around and just think about what are all the other blessings. And it's
A
very hard
hundred
for a
percent.
mother and a woman because there is that saying, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. And so, like, it's hard to look at all the other children that might be succeeding or flourishing when you may be having so much trouble with one and your heart
Right.
is breaking and you can't, but you have to understand, count the blessings, as trite as that sounds, live in the joy of the other things that are going right. Because sometimes you can't
Yes.
enjoy this because this is so bad. So now my husband said, so why suddenly can't we enjoy the rest of life and some of these other
Yes.
things? And I'm like, oh, so I'm depressed and this is like my whole world is over if this particular thing is going wrong, but it's not.
Yeah,
And so
that gratitude practice. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's so, so important. I
yeah,
recently, over the month of Adar, I joined this beautiful joy challenge with a group of women. And look at this exercise. I'm telling you, it was incredible. Every morning we would rate independently, right? You would take your journal and you would rate your your level of joy, 90%, 80%, 20, whatever it was, right? And then you would write the things that are the challenging things in your life at the moment, one column, right? And then we would write all the things that you're grateful for. And of course, by the time you finish this thing, because by the time you hone in on everything that is going right, my goodness,
correct,
everything that really is going right,
correct.
and then you rate yourself again and you're like, okay, like I'm up 20 points, at 30 points, and
Correct.
I'm ready to start my day. It was really a beautiful experience to do this every day for the month of Adar. I should really take it on again because it was so awesome.
That's stunning. I love that you did that at the beginning of the day. So I've
Yeah.
found at the end of the day, what I have done is when my mind, it's hard to quiet my mind, or again, I'm a little agitated or uneasy from all of the stresses of whatever is going on, whether they be small stresses or a big particular challenge. I close my eyes at night, and I just go through and start listing and I
Yeah.
try to fall asleep instead of counting sheep. I try to fall asleep to
Me
all of
too.
yeah,
Same,
we're like twins.
same,
So, but,
same,
but
same.
it's
It's like
funny.
my
I never
pillow
did it.
practice.
Totally. But I never did it at the beginning of the day, which is probably more effective in getting like good
And
energy up for the start of your day.
I'll tell you what, it's yes, the beginning, but also the exercise of writing it, the exercise of cementing
Yeah.
it. Because you and I are doing it in our thoughts, right? The head
Yes.
is on the pillow and we're going, thank you,
Yeah,
Hashem, for
yeah.
this, thank you, Hashem, blah, 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 blah,
Uh-huh,
which is
uh-huh.
it's very powerful. But there's
Yes.
something really powerful about cementing it every morning and writing it. It just concretizes it even a bit more. So yeah.
Did you have to write it with pen and paper, like you
I
personally, or you typed it? I was wondering,
No,
like
no,
on
no.
your
I
phone.
wrote it with pen and paper. I had a journal and
Wow.
I wrote it every day. Very cool.
Beautiful.
Okay, now
Beautiful.
you've
Unbelievable.
inspired me to start continuing the practice.
Yeah, I was gonna
And
say,
then
you could just read it back. I'm saying like that's also
that's also
probably
good.
like a good
Exactly.
exercise.
Yes, 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 yes. Jamie, I don't know if we ever talked about this on the show before, but what was your upbringing like with regards to money? What were some of the pivotal, beautiful lessons or helpful lessons? Sometimes they're not beautiful, but they're very helpful. Lessons that you learned from your home of origin about money. I feel like a lot of the way we think and relate to money has to do with what we saw in our home of origin.
Correct.
And there are lessons. Sometimes there are lessons that are helpful, and sometimes there are lessons that in adulthood we say, I don't want that in my life. But would you have any lessons that come to mind?
So lessons are not coming to mind, but I guess, I don't know, because we're on the challenges, like I can talk about how I was raised in some of the challenges of that, like,
Yes.
yeah. So my father is extremely successful. My parents came from Transylvania to Pennsylvania in the 1960s. And my mother did graduate high school. My father never graduated high school. Maybe if he even had a somewhat of a year of formal schooling, I don't even know. He like probably barely even went. So it's very hard. He writes with a lot of spelling mistakes. He speaks with a very heavy accent, but being an immigrant to saying this country, I'm not sitting in America, but being an immigrant to America and just going for that American dream, he was an entrepreneur and had many very successful businesses and many very successful subsequent investments because of that. So we
Mm-hmm.
really grew up like princesses. I mean,
Right.
you're talking to people who have come from a third world country who like, didn't see a car or a television set or anything, before they came to America. And really, the one thing that I will say, here's a lesson that education was so important to my father. And so he actually paid, because he was able to, for our schooling. You know what Jewish private school education is. I mean, it is like
Yes.
unaffordable, as you mentioned. And he paid for our schooling when we entered school, like when we went to junior high and high school, so sixth grade all the way through 12th grade. In sixth grade, he prepaid. He said, should anything
Wow.
ever,
Oh,
God forbid, happen to me or anything, I want my daughters to make sure that they have a
oh my
Jewish
gosh.
education. And it's trying. So that was like unbelievable to see that as a focus for someone who never graduated high school. Again, like I said, who has trouble spelling. I think in every language that he speaks, he has probably,
Right.
never really mastered that. But like to see that that was so critical and so important to him. So that was beautiful. But because we grew up in such a lavish lifestyle, so incredibly spoiled, never even thinking about or worrying about where a dollar comes from, that became extremely hard for me as I got married and had to face life and had to work.
Yes.
And I'm saying, and that's something I still, and while I've come a long way,
Same.
baby, and I have, that has been such a struggle. Like we can't afford it. I mean, as I think, by the way, my husband and I know, I'd love we go back and forth. I don't know that we totally agree. I'd love your expert opinion on this. I don't love saying to the kids, we can't afford it. Now,
Right.
I like them understanding that there is X amount of dollars and we can decide, do we want it to go here? Do we want it to go there? Do we want it to go to camp? Do we want it to go to an extra dress for the holiday or whatever? But I don't love saying we can't afford that. I feel like that
Right.
erodes the safety that a child should feel. And my
Hmm.
husband's, because he grew up in a very normal working class home where you just couldn't afford everything. So
Right.
like to me, it's like it's a sign of weakness that we can't afford it. To him, he's like, there's no embarrassment in that. We can't afford that. Why is that an embarrassment? I'd love your expert opinion on that.
So I'll tell you how to balance it. First of all, I grew up very similar. I could totally relate, and I came into my adult life and into married life,
Yeah,
and to this day, I still struggle with the notion that I can't just do everything, right? And that
yeah,
it's not a personal attack from my husband. And I
yeah,
have to realize, oh, if I get upset, it's really my 7-year-old child who's not used to anybody telling her no. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who's like getting triggered right now, but nobody's trying to
Sure.
hurt me. I'm safe. And all, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
Um, so I'll tell you what to do with children. I agree with you. I agree with both of you. What I would do
Oh,
is I
that's
would use,
very PC.
yes,
That's good because we like usually
no,
when
no,
that
no. I
happens.
agree with both of you. We have to have both. So what we
Yeah.
do is we change the language. Instead of saying we can't afford it, we say, oh, that's a really nice idea. Tati and mommy are going to discuss it. And when we sit down and talk about,
Uh,
our budget or whatever you want to call it, our plan, you say things like that. You say, oh, I like that. You know what? Maybe I don't think we can do the full thing. I'm going to speak to your father. We'll come up with a plan to meet you halfway there. Say the kid wants, I
yes.
don't know, guitar lessons, right?
Yes.
So we'll meet you halfway there. We'll pay for the guitar, you pay for the lessons. Or I really
Right.
like that idea. It's not in our plans right now because we're planning a trip to Israel, because
Yes.
we are planning a family simcha. But about I help you come up with ideas of how you can earn the money for this, or how we can find it on sale for you and it's within your
Right.
budget. Because our kids
Right.
also, we have to start giving them access to their own money so they can make their own
Sure.
trade-offs and their own decisions.
Sure.
So you see what
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
saying? So always avoiding the we can't afford it, because the reality is it's not the entire truth, because if we wanted to, we could afford it. It's not a
Correct.
priority for
We
us.
have
And
deprioritized. Yes.
exactly. And what we want them to know, what you want your children to know is, wow, my parents think about money intentionally, there are priorities, right? Because you want that in adulthood to be able to do that, because that's what exactly what
Yes.
they're going to have to do. They're going to have to make trade-offs. I don't care if they have $1 billion budget or $1 million budget or a $10,000
Yeah.
budget. There's always a trade-off to be made, right? So you
Correct.
want them to start thinking not that it's limited, but that we allocate with intentionality. So that message
Yes.
is, oh, it's not that my parents don't have, it's that my parents think this through, right? And they
Yes.
make
I love
decisions.
that.
You see what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
they learn, oh, not everything has to be yes right now. It's yes, that's possible. Let's think of a possibility. It's yes, that's possible in a few months. And maybe it's in a few years. So it's never a no, we can't do that. It's let's find a way that this can be done, perhaps. So
I love
how do you
it because
like all
it's
that?
also coming from such a position of strength. As if I feel that
Exactly.
we can't afford it is a weakness. And again, it's
Yeah.
triggering to me because of my background that never happened. So like I don't want to
Right.
impart that fear to kids, but at the same time, there needs to be a sense of responsibility that we impart to them.
Exactly.
And all that
Exactly.
intentionality and all that prioritizing and all that looking, taking a step back and teaching them the practice of looking holistically at a bigger picture and
Hmm.
making choices. We're making great
Right.
choices. We're
We're
deciding,
making
like you said,
choices.
for summer camp instead of, guitar lessons. Yeah,
Exactly. Which is the skill they're going to have to make later
yes,
in life. So we're
totally.
giving them the tools and the mindset and the tool, how they're going to have to do it. So again, because again,
Yeah,
there is no truth to we can't afford it. The
correct.
reality is we're choosing to spend our money differently. And it's
Elsewhere.
okay for
Correct.
children to know that we choose to
Yes,
spend our money differently.
correct. Correct.
Right?
I love
It's
it. I
healthy
love
for them
it.
to know. Okay,
I
good.
love it.
Okay, so I'm glad we had this conversation.
We said
Um,
that, and then we said next we're going to solve world peace. Like, what's next? We said before.
exactly. I mean, people. Yeah, Jamie and Yael. I don't know. Something has to. Yes. Okay. So I want to ask another question, but before that, I forgot to mention because you said about the financial challenge about 15 years ago that even happened during the transition to and the move to Israel. And I want to highlight that because very often we feel like these making Aliyah, moving to Israel, it's like this thing that all my financial docs have to be checked. And I have to have this amount in savings. I have to have the job lined up. And because it feels like, I mean, it is a big thing. I'm not saying no, and I'm not, I don't want to sound like, oh, you just be irresponsible, but I also want to temper that with, this can be done, even if you're in the midst of uncertainty.
Yes.
So I want you to talk to me about that because it's hardly ever said. Like usually people tell me, yeah, you have to have this amount of savings and don't come to Israel if you haven't gotten the job lined up and you da 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 da, right? And that might have maybe wasn't your reality and you still did it and you're still there.
Not only am I still here, and we're not just surviving, we are thriving here. And every single day is a pinch me moment. 13 years later, I do not look out at my view and say not say, thank you, God, that I am here and that I'm looking at Hare Yehuda, the Judean hills with Jerusalem just on the other side. There's not a day passes where I don't say, thank you, God, I work. This is my view from the Dan Family Aish World Center. I used to work
Wow.
in Times Square, which I thought was the center of the universe. This is the center of the universe. And I just
Literally,
feel
by the way.
yeah, and I just feel that blessing has only come from this decision. If the decision is made on what we'll call a ruchnius level, from a spiritual place, from a desire to be back in our homeland, living our most authentic Jewish, unbelievable life, and this is where we can live it the best, and this is where we should be, then I think if you come for the right reasons, then yes, again, not irresponsible, God forbid, but I don't think anything should hold you back. There are things that may hold back. God forbid, I want to say like some parents that might need to be taken care of or
Right.
cared for, family members, some health treatments or things. But from a financial place, if you have the means and or the expertise and or a pathway and or a plan and or a profession that you understand could be leveraged in a way from there, whether it's leveraging it back and traveling back or telecommuting and or remote work and or you have a plan for how you apply your professional expertise here on the ground. That is enough to just say at some points with everything, we have to let go and let God. In what
Mhm.
world are you certain before you get married that every single box on your checklist was checked and then, okay, now you're going to go live happy, healthy life together until 120, and this is the perfect person for you. You go into nothing with a motherhood, right? You're
Mhm.
waiting for the baby. Got a willing. You took care of yourself during pregnancy. You hopefully took care of the baby. You took all the vitamins. You said all the prayers. You did all the things that, but at the end of the day, like you're going in with how much experience being a mother the first time? Zero. And you're going to learn on the job. We do great things in life. The best things that we do in life, the best decisions that we make in life are not on a checklist or on a spreadsheet or with X amount of dollars in the bank. And that includes my decision to become religious, again, for those who were born into it. So that might not be an example to put on your list, but in what world, if
Yeah.
you're doing something with the right meaning, the right intention, you want to get married, you want to start a life, you want to build a Jewish family, you want to be a mother, you want to live a more religious, authentically Jewish lifestyle, you want to do that in Israel, then I just think like there's a time for responsibility spreadsheets, but it doesn't have to be that every column is completely balanced and everything is in the green.
Yes, yes. You articulated that so beautifully. There's that element of really having that emuna and the bitachon that, I don't have to have all the answers. Not all the ducks have to be checked. And I have a good partner with a capital P. Like he's with me. I have the right intention. And there's blessings that are going to come out of this. And I've seen it time and time again, by the way, with my friends who moved to Israel. Namely, I could
Yeah.
say Eliza Ben Shalom, for example,
Yes.
yourself, and many, many others. And by the way, did I just see a couple of weeks ago you're building your home now? Are we in
Oh,
a
you're such a
construction?
good. So we finished construction
Oh
actually.
my gosh, that's so
Yeah, so it's
exciting.
so crazy. So I have, if you go onto YouTube, you'll see Living the Dream. Oh no, we called it Building the Dream Part Two. Okay, so we had Living the Dream was like we had Joy of Aliyah, then we had Living the Dream, and then we had Building the Dream. So and that we completely did redo our house, and now whatever, you heard it here first, breaking news, we are selling it now.
Oh my
Because
gosh, are you
we
serious?
are moving on up. We are going to Jerusalem. I'm putting it
Oh,
out there in the
wow.
world. We live in a suburb of Jerusalem right now in Ramat Beit Shemesh, which is a
Mm-hmm.
stunning, unbelievable, incredible Anglo community and an absolutely soft landing and an amazing place. But just my heart and soul just yearns for Yerushalayim. And it's always been a dream of ours. And now we have three kids out of high school. We have two kids in dorms, three kids in seminary, yeshiva, dorming, another kid working in Yerushalayim. It's kind of like the right time for us that we feel that we can make this move. So beautiful new redone house and available in Ramat Beit Shemesh for those that want
Oh
to make
my
aliyah.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And you're off
Yeah.
to Jerusalem proper.
Yes.
Whoa, that is
Yes.
huge. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you won't think so highly of me. Maybe I'm not so spiritual, but in our Aliyah dreams, which keep getting put on hold because we do have family responsibilities, that really is the
Yes.
main thing that we just can't leave behind. But here's the thing, my husband, like his dream is Jerusalem, and I'm a water girl. I grew up by the ocean, and the older I get, I say, Matt, I just can't. I need water. And he's like, there's plenty of water in Israel. If what you need is the water, we'll get you the water.
I'm telling you, Herzliya is stunning. We don't
Yes.
vacation outside of Israel. We don't travel with our family outside of Israel. So I travel for work, but otherwise we stay here for all of the holidays, for the summers,
Wow.
etc. So we vacation in Israel and we enjoy all that it has to offer. And every summer we
Nice.
go to Herzliya and it's on the beach and it's absolutely stunning. But there's Herzliya, there's Caesarea. My sister's even looking into Aliyah now with her. I married a New Yorker. We live in Israel. She married an Israeli. She lives in New York. But
Oh,
anyway, they're finally considering it and they're looking at Netanya. But there's beautiful communities.
yes.
There's Chabad, a beautiful Chabad community in Netanya on the water. She's looking at a pencil. I'm you can have your dream here too. Yerushalayim, Tzfat. You can live on a farm. You can live in the north. You can live in the
Yeah.
south. You can live in a mountainous region. It's all here. So
Yes.
don't you
It's all
worry.
here. It's all
And the
here.
coolest
Don't.
part is like the Herzliya is like an hour from Yerushalayim. It's not like if you
Yeah.
go to the water that your husband's not going to see, you're not going to live or be in Yerushalayim. So don't
Right.
worry.
Right. So yes, yes. Don't put limits on God. It's all there.
Completely, completely. And it's so funny because they say things like certain people are like water and search in
Yes.
our like mountain, like water speaks to me too, not the same to my husband. So that's why I'm always like vacationing in Herzliya, because I feel like I need that. Just looking at the water is a vacation for me.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
it's just a spiritual reset. I feel like I just see God, and just like with every wave, I just like feel
Yes.
him coming. It's just like unbelievable.
Yes, yes. Tell me about it. Now, I want to talk about um women ambition, being here we are, we're two very creative, very driven, very accomplished women, and there are many in the audience in the same way. Um, Marriage and money, Jamie. You know, Recently I've been more concerned and more articulate about, a lot of the masculine and feminine energies getting kind of mixed up. And sometimes it's not conscious, it's really unknowingly, where women of our kind of like drive, let's say, kind of like step into a more masculine modality whereby the husbands inevitably just kind of step down from their masculine energy, and it's in many cases leading to this like slow erosion of their masculinity and her femininity and ultimately the relationship. What's your take on this? Because I would love, I really believe that while women, we can be super creative and intelligent and accomplished and prepared, and we don't want to emasculate our husbands. We don't want to resign our primary responsibility, which is that of being a homemaker, of being our husband's anchor and our children's anchor and foundation, right? So it's like it's a very delicate line that we have to dance. And it is important that I think it's an important issue because the Torah does want us to use our talents. It's not like we're supposed to not use all the gifts that God has given us. And yet we need to be the feminine also. We can't step into the masculine. So how have you navigated that? What words of wisdom you have on this?
First of all, you are so right that that is a great issue that women like us face. And I think about that all the time. And I can't believe the way you articulated it was so spot on. And it has been an issue for us and for me and for, like we've seen this time and again, this pattern and this scenario with different people we know in our lives. And first of all, I don't want to suggest that what I'm going to say now that I have figured it out and that I'm actually fully practicing what I'm going to quote unquote preach. And I don't want it to come off as preaching. It's just something I'm trying and I try. And I think it's working to some extent, but there's still a lot of more work to be done. I do try to leave that energy at work. Right. I do try to leave it. When I say at work, I mean, I'm like, if I took my background off right now, I'm talking to you from my desk in my bedroom. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's like, and the rest of the family's on the other side of that door. So at work sometimes means just like, when I close the door on that, professional work day or work wherever I'm working from, that day. Um, and I think really making sure that there's this like demarcation between
Mhm.
my home life and my professional life. And I do feel, and I see myself getting a little bit more aggressive in that, like what you call it a masculine modality, which sounds a lot better than being very aggressive, in my work, conversations and interactions when, it's called for. But here I really try to say my husband is the king and he needs to
Right.
feel like that. And let me just tell you, he does not always feel like that. And I do not always do a good job of this. And one of the things that I pray for is that he should feel that I feel like that. And he should feel in the big and the small ways. Often it's the
Mhm.
small ways. You could
Yes,
say
often it's the
that
small
and you
ways.
could say that publicly, but it's like it's in all of the small things that you do
Yeah.
that prove that to be true. And
Hmm.
so when it comes to feeling like who is the boss, who's making the decisions for the family, who is the more vocal in front of the children about so the decision making, even though we are beyond a team, we are beyond a partner. And by the way, he elevates me as a queen. So it's
Yeah.
very easy. And I should do a better job of making him feel that a king because he makes me feel like that. So there's a partnership in that too, as well. But I think like trying to consciously, that's step one, is just consciously leave that energy behind and understand we're somewhere else now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't behave the same way in synagogue as you do in the boardroom. Like, you don't behave the same way at your kid's kindergarten play as you do, like at the beach. I don't know. I'm just like every time and place
Yes.
for every single, and they're all aspects of us. I don't feel that I'm not being true to myself. I just feel like this is a place where I get to sit back and let him take charge. And by the
Hmm.
way, I have to tell you, I actually love it for someone who likes to take charge and is quite
Hmm.
bossy and like, can overpower a room, a conversation, or a situation. I like to kind of say, like, someone else
Yeah.
make all the big and small decisions. Like you do the thing, like you lead. Like
Hmm.
I want to be
Hmm.
led.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and we
it's
have to
some of the
let them
things.
lead. We definitely have to let them lead. Yeah, it's stepping into that. I guess you mentioned before, like we grew up like princesses, right? So
Yeah.
stepping back into that. No, I'm a queen here. I'm a princess,
Yeah.
and there's a king, and there can't be two
Yeah.
kings. You know,
Yeah.
there's a king and there's a queen. And I like that you mentioned that the subtleties, the small things. I think there's a subtlety in how we do this. From I've noticed it now in my own relationship because I'm really consciously, very consciously trying to work on this only because I'm really seeing how problematic it has been in people around me. So
Correct.
I'm very cautious of no, but I'm a Latin girl at heart. I know how to do this. Like there, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't know.
Totally.
But the subtleties of, bringing them a cup of water without being asked, or serving the dinner, or making an extra dish
Right.
that even though if you're not in the mood of cooking, but you know they're gonna
Yeah.
like it. Just
Yeah.
that those extra things, because the truth is most husbands are very, very caring. I have one who happens to be extremely into the details of
Yeah.
making me feel seen and beloved,
Yes.
and so I have to hone into also my ability to do that, making him feel like, yeah, here you are being served, and I know you
Yeah.
like this. I went the extra mile to get it at the store, even though he knows I don't like shopping, and he knows I
Yes,
don't like cooking.
totally.
You know what I
Totally
mean?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Totally. I hate shopping. I hate shopping. I hate
Me
shopping.
too.
By the
It's
way,
like
even
the
for
vein of my
clothes.
existence.
Like I'm saying,
Yeah.
not just for groceries, for clothing. Like I'm not a shopping girl.
Yeah, no, for me it's like the groceries. It's like and no. And by the way, delivery hasn't done it for me. It's like I have to be at the
Okay.
store and anyway. Okay, so good. So I'm glad we tackled this. It is an important conversation, and
Yeah.
I think women need to hear it. And there's so much bracha that comes, by the way, financial bracha that comes from allowing these energies to be balanced. Let him take the lead, let him be the king, give him his space, and you be the, you know what I mean? And you could still be
Yeah.
creative and professionally
Totally.
active and do your thing, but
Totally.
just work on still being the feminine
Totally.
so that he
Completely.
can
And
be
so
in the masculine.
And I'm main to that. And sometimes it's like, just take like one scenario and work on it. It's like, it's a thing about I have to work on it all the time is very hard, but like maybe just take the Shabbos table, maybe just take Friday night, maybe just take dinner time, like start there. And then like the behaviors start to become habits and then trickle down.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
like a sort of
yes.
overwhelming to think, oh, always like,
Yeah,
especially if it's
exactly.
natural or you're making a change.
Yeah, beautiful point. Now, Jamie, I like to coordinate all my guests with what I call Jewish Money Matters fill in the blanks. This is the part of the show when I give you an open-ended sentence and you fill it with the first thing that comes to mind. And I didn't even go look at the ones if you gave me
So
last time or
stressful.
not. So let's see what comes up with this one.
Okay.
The first one is when I give Meiser or Tzedakah or Chomesh, whatever we want to call it, I like to give to
Torah learning.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Which, by the way, this is really the primary intent of Meister should be for Torah learning. So it's beautiful that you say that. I'd love to make more money because
I want to move to Yerushalayim in a really nice place.
nice, good.
Not
Amen.
just
You
like
should
in
be able to do
Yerushalayim,
that.
but a
You
nice
should be
place. I mean, I mean, I mean, I mean, thank you.
Amen. Of course, of course.
Thank
Hashem should
you.
bless you. Should be a gorgeous
I
place,
mean,
gorgeous
I
place.
mean, I
You're
mean,
gonna sell your house for a lot of money, be able
I
to move
mean,
to Yerushalayim, to your
I
dream
mean,
home.
I mean, I mean, I mean,
Okay, something I wish I'd learned about money growing up is
that it's not just always available endlessly whenever you need it.
it's there, but
Yeah, just like not, yeah, not without cap, like growing up,
yeah.
it was just, I'm telling you, like champagne wishes and caviar dreams, like limousines with drivers. Like they don't, my kids even like limousines do they even exist anymore?
I
Stretch
don't know.
limos.
I
Yeah, oh
think
my
they
gosh.
do.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, money, spiritual or physical or both? What do you think?
It's totally physical, but I think we're blessed when we think about it spiritually.
Nice, nice. Right. When you add that spiritual dimension to it, because yeah, 100%, 100%. Something I splurge on unapologetically is.
The spa.
Oh,
I'm
good for
like a spa
you.
girl. I am a
Really?
spa girl. I took
Oh,
myself for my birthday for a 2 hour facial, and
uh-huh.
I literally thought the lady made a mistake, like that when we were done, that she didn't see that it was supposed to be a 2 hour appointment. That's how amazing it was. And now I think I need to extend the facial because she got it right. It was 2 hours, but it went in a flash.
Oh, well, so you're gonna tell me exactly where to go when I'm in Israel? Like,
The
where's
Waldorf
my best
Astoria
spa?
Jerusalem 2 hour facial, tailor made. They do it just for you and your skin, exactly what you want and need.
There, very nice. I gotta tell you, I was just in Panama and I just did my whole shebang of, good Latin self-care. So I'm with you.
What do
And
they do there in Panama?
I gave
What's
me
like
all
good
the,
Latin
I did
self-care?
all the massages. I did facials, massages, you name it. I did it all.
Love it. That
Yes.
is like my happy place. You can find me at the spa. If you can't find me,
Hmm.
that's where I am.
I want the spa and then like with the view of the ocean and then like that would be
So
like the
then,
perfect happy
then
place, right?
Ritz-Carlton Herzliya. By the way, I go to
Okay.
the spa in the Ritz-Carlton Herzliya all the time with a stunning view of the Mediterranean Sea,
Okay.
like breathtaking. So,
I
by the
I
way, I'll take
I
you
see it in
there.
our future. I see it in
I
our
was gonna
future.
say,
This is
when are
a
you coming
date.
next? When are you coming next?
Soon. I'm in. Soon. Let's
Okay.
just
Please,
okay.
God, you will get here
That's
soon, whenever
amen.
you want, as soon as you can. And then we have
Amen.
a date at the
We
Ritz-Carlton Herzliya at the spa.
amen. People don't look for us. We're not recording this.
Yeah,
We're
yes.
just gonna go incognito by ourselves.
The phones are off. That's why I say you can,
Yes.
otherwise you can always find me because I'm myself,
Yeah.
I'm very
No.
reachable, but at the spa, I turn it off.
Nice. Okay, you're good. Okay, Jamie, spender or saver? I think I know the
What do you,
answer.
come on, come on. I'm not even feeling that blank because honestly, you don't know me. If we've been now on, this is the third show. If you don't know, then you don't know.
Oh my gosh. But your husband's the saver.
Obviously, but I don't really like, allow him to save in the way that he needs to, or the way that we need to. But yes, that's the
Oh my
balance,
gosh.
the
Okay,
yin
that's
and
the
the yang.
balance. Exactly. Today I'm most grateful for.
My children and the path
Baruch
that they're
Hashem.
on. Well, I
Baruch
like my
Hashem.
children, and I think it's important to share that the path that they're on.
Beautiful, beautiful. How old are the kids now, Jamie? My gosh, we've known each other for so long. How old are your kids?
My oldest is 20 and
Oh
my
wow.
youngest is about to be 10, and
Oh
she's in
wow.
Shidduchim. So this is like an incredible person. We're looking for the most wonderful person for her now. And then the next one turns
Um, amen.
19 like in a week or two. And so, that's how that goes.
Amen. Amen. My oldest is 19 and my youngest is 13. So we're kind of like in similar
Totally.
stages.
Is your
Beautiful.
oldest a
Baruch
girl as
Hashem.
well?
A boy. He's
Okay, okay.
19.
So you have a
Yeah.
little bit more time.
I have a little bit more time and I'll be calling you for advice.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Finally, I'm Jamie Geller, and I believe Jewish money matters because
We need to use it to change the world in ways that are important and that will really affect change. So
Amen.
that Jewish money needs to be directed to the right place, and that's why it matters.
Amen. Amen. And you're doing a beautiful job of helping the world do that, knowing where it needs to be directed. Jamie Geller, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful interview. And I look forward to our date at the spa.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Thank you.